Dylan strives with heart, flames in her eyes, vision so sharp, cutting through lies. Graceful ballerina on world's heavy stage, igniting the truth, turning page after page. Unified fire, light in her veins, kick-starting the engine, breaking chains. Insight on high, she sees through the dark, pathway revealed, she leaves her mark.
Flame and brilliance, born from the spark, one heart ignited, roaring like a lark. Unified forces making shadows depart. Jen leads us in this grand art.
Her wisdom's a torch, eyes set on the goal. Destiny written deep in her soul. Fire and light, merging so tight. Powers combined to illuminate night. Jen's grace, lifting vision so high. Seeing the world through an eagle's eye. Heartbeats sinking like drums in the fight. Unified essence burning so bright.
Oh, flame and brilliance, born from the spark. One heart ignited, roaring like a lark. Unified forces making shadows depart. Jen leads us in this grand art. Jen leads us, and born from the in this grand art. In this grand art.
Hello, and welcome to a special ENJEN to Heart. And I see Leslie, and I see Nicole, and I see Crystal, and I see Sharon, and I'm so excited to see you all. Crystal, you have to send me a message about that because I think that's maybe something that I forgot about. So, oh, yeah, I certainly did. That's okay. I got you. So remind me, message me. Hello, Lydia, and welcome in. All right. So we're going to do this is an amazing project with this amazing person. But first, for those of you who may not know me, my name is Jen Lynn. I'm the creator of Avant-Garde Branding and the founder of Uniqua New Beauty Norm. And also now the CEO of Sing Your Song, which is what we're here to talk about today, which is a living movie experience. So get ready for amazing things to just like kind of blow your mind, really, about movies, how they're made, and using them for actual movements. And so before I do that, though, I'm going to share a little bit of a story about my guest. Is Carey Corr. Some of you may know him, and some of you may not. A director and screenwriter, and just an amazing human being. And I'm gonna pop myself down, play this little video for you all, and then we'll be back and we'll talk about what it is that we're doing and how you can be a part. All right, all right. So yes, I know you probably couldn't read that, and I guess that means you'll have to come back on the replay and kind of pause it if you want to know the full story. And other than that, I have the real person to bring up so that we can tell you the real story ourselves. So I would love to see some clapping hands, some woohoo cheers, some hearts, some flames. Show us some love as we bring up my special guest and partner, Carey Corr. Welcome, welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. So good to be here with you, and I'm moved.
Uh, So
That's it. I'm just
excited to
moved.
be here having this conversation. Yes, yes. It was the first time for you to see all of that too. And my system does this funny little thing where it's perfect, it's perfect, it's perfect. And then when I print it out, it changes. And I'm like, grr, with the audio. But, it's all good. And I had fun just kind of putting that in right because we're disruptors and just giving that feel all the way through. That's part of what's so fun in movies, I think, right? Is being able to just anything and everything that you want you can place in there, right? And so that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today is the power of movies and the power of connection and the power of one of the things you may have seen at the very end there was Hollywood praise on you, literally Prey, because they understand the hijacking that happens with your senses, with your brain and your body, to keep you in a place of suspension and then just kind of leave you there. And so the one general big idea of what we're doing is to change that, right? So Carey, why don't you tell everybody just a little bit about who you are, your past if you'd like. If not, we'll just talk about what we're doing and how the future is going to pull us forward.
Yeah, I'm a screenwriter and a director. I've done a lot of things and not everything I wanted to. And that's what brings us here. Really, that's what brings us here and what we're doing together. And like you say, the emergent way of filmmaking, a new way to do it all, including the business, but also just not just, but also creation of the movies and what they do to people. And um, part of that doesn't mean that the movie itself would look any different than any other story, right? So that's an important thing, but so much goes into our lives that comes from the heart and creatively, and all everybody's creative, right? We work from that space, and um, it's surprising when you find out that that's not exactly how it works uh,
Hmm.
in film, in Hollywood, and even independent film. That there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of ego. I mean, I guess most people would recognize the ego because it's pretty clear. There's a lot of stuff around the money and the pressure of doing something as if it means something more than just telling a story. Not that that should be taken lightly. I'm not suggesting that in any way. I'm saying grasping that, sharing that from your heart, co-creating with everybody, because there's a lot of people it takes to make a movie
Mhm.
along the way. And even taking it, which is what we're doing, a step further and honoring the audience and not looking at them as a transactional entity, a place to extract money from. That doesn't mean that Hollywood isn't providing some entertainment for that, and there aren't some good films being made and all that. That's not at all a thing. But I recognize in my journey that for me, wouldn't have been able to create something there that could be fully me, a full expression of what of my consciousness, of what works through me. And I also recognize that all films, including those for entertainment, give us this situation where we're wrapped up in them. We become part of the story while we're watching it. We suspend our disbelief and we start having insights about what's happening. As an audience member, you're part of the story. It's a true dialogue. It's a thing that's happening to you in the theater. And I just think that should be honored. Realize that should be honored, not just seen as a box office number, but as a co-creator. And that's what's got me here today. Sing Your Song came through me. I wrote it, and I've been on the mission and gratefully uh, synchronicities are happening to send the right people to help this thing go forward, right? And as that's happened, that's we're here today because of that, And so uh, I think there was a little piece in there that said it's not about the director in your little video about Sing Your Song, right? And that to a certain extent is very true for me. Um, yeah, it's not about any one person, although everyone fills their role for what their authentic self brings to the project. And so it's not to discount the fact that I'm a writer and a director, but it's also not to make that more than what it is, because it's not. It takes a village for all parts of a movie. Even if you're making a movie in Hollywood, it still takes a village of people to do that. But we've come to understand how important the audience is, and I think this is true with most art. But it's a dialogue. If you make something, a movie, and no one sees it, is it really a movie? Does it really exist? I don't know. You know? Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like, does a tree make sound right when it falls in the forest, when it's by itself, kind of question. So I know that you all out there have experienced what Carey was talking about, where you're kind of like suspended and you become part of what's happening. You become part of the movie, right? Like you're transported, sucked in, as it were. Um, Sometimes I even find myself looking, right? If I'm like, no, you need to go right, you need to go left, and or just really feeling into the story in that way. And the other part that's really beautiful is that there's not really a movie, or is there really a movie with an audience? And I want to hear from you guys out there in the audience and let us know. Have you experienced that? Do you experience that with movies? Do you get lost in them? Have you ever had questions about a character, or why something was filmed the way it was, and things like that? Never wished that you could just have a conversation with the director, perhaps the actor or the actress, right? Or the cinematographer, or the music composer, right? Like different things that you're like, or why did the story end that way? Things like that. Because I think it happens quite a bit. And that's also part of what this journey with Sing Your Song is all about, because it's really about connection with the audience. It's about transformation and transformative experiences, and not just for a fleeting moment, right? Because in the world, we can have those. And when we're open hearted, we do have those little fleeting moments quite often. But what if you could have a transformative moment that really transformed you and brought something through you, and not just that it brought up a memory, or it brought up something from the past, or it made you think of something into the future, but that it pulls you into the future because it's changed something inside of you, right? It's transmuted through the story, and reminds you that you have the power to write your own story or to change your own story, right? So, what would that be like for you all to be able to do that? Speak to someone, right? Whether that be the director, like I said, or the producer, or someone else, of the experience that you all have had with your movies. Sharon, I know you said that happens to you all the time. So, how much would you love to be able to speak to somebody that was part of that movie, right? It's about sharing movies, or let's see. Nick asked, "Is this so? This is about sharing movies and allowing the audience to explore the storyline." So, do you want to talk a little bit about the idea of the
Yeah,
story and
sure.
how we? Yeah,
Yeah. So, yes, it is. It is that what it's, and then it goes an extra level for me. Jenlin was just talking about getting sucked into the movie and all of that, but there is an opening that happens in that process that gives you pause to examine yourself. This is the power of storytelling, and particularly for me, it's the power of movies because it in that dark room, you become part of the story while you're also aware you're sitting in the dark room, or you could be in a lighted room in your living room. It's the same thing happens because movies draw you in to the story, and at the same time you're you're not part of the story. You're having new insights of what the story might be, or and it's the same thing as saying, "Oh wait, don't go in there, don't go in there," because you see the character going into danger, right? And that's how we connect through our lives uh, in that storytelling world that we live in as humans. We connect through stories and we understand through stories. And so a movie can do all those things that Nick mentioned, but it can also open you to a new perspective of who you are as a human and what might happen from that new understanding. It's, yeah.
yeah. It's so a little bit of the neuroscience behind that, right? Is that there is that suspension of disbelief, right? Where you're suspended in your disbelief, and it's your default mode network, right? It's part of your brain that is tied to your memory and your identity and your imagination, and that begins to synchronize with the story, right? So you're not just following the narrative. Your brain waves actually begin to mirror the rhythm that's been laid down in the movie itself, in the story, through the color, through the sound, through the music, and all of those things. So then you're not watching it, you're inside of it, like Carey was saying, but you're still on the outside too. And then there's a salience network moment to that aha circuit that we have, where you emotionally or intellectually or spiritually, right, have something unexpected happen. Maybe you have something that changes inside of you, right? You didn't expect to feel that, or you didn't know that you needed that, or I didn't know that I remembered that, right? Those are the kind of aha moments that you can experience. And then there's the mirror neurons, right? So there's a dialogue without words. The film is speaking, and it's speaking in gestures, and it's speaking in ruptures, and it's speaking in crescendos and light. And then as you witness that, you can have breakthrough. And sometimes it is things like great joy or shame or grief, but you have a breakthrough. And then because our brains are because of the neuroplasticity that they have, that's something that, if it's followed up on, can actually lead to lasting transformation. So the philosophy kind of here is that there's a space where that story can become ceremonial almost. And if we're present with the audience in that moment, in the afterwards and the after moments, we can have a conversation, right? It's not just a film. It's a movie, it's a movement, right? So there's a lot of big plans that we have and what that actually looks like. As far as, remember when you were young, maybe you were young, how many people have been to like a circus, something that was traveling through town, a circus, a with fun houses and or what is it called, carnivals, right? Something like that that was coming through town, and you get really excited to be able to go and travel and do that. Did you know that Hollywood, right? In the beginning, Hollywood did that. They kind of traveled, they go across by train, right? And so that was personal. And Carey, I want you to talk about this part because you tell this so well and you're so fluid in knowing about the history and what it is that we're trying to pick up in that essence.
Yeah, so uh, the history of movies until a few decades ago was personal. It wasn't confinement of story. It wasn't money dictating what the content is. It wasn't trying to market uh, in advance of the movie, right? And this we know because we see it all the time. You can even find some trailers for some big movies out years, a year to 2 years before that movie will be in the theater trying to pique interest. But that's not how it was. The creators were there to create, and they were there to also bring that film to the world in a personal way, and movies and stars and all of those things were about the people seeing the movies, not about the money that was made. And so a long time ago, that's was the way it was. I mean, for some of those early filmmakers, they would literally take the reel under their arm and they'd go place to place on a train and they'd bring it into the theater and they'd show those reels of film to people. And obviously it would evolve, and did evolve into there being pre-notice on everything, and and there being some idea of what's coming. But it was more about providing the people, the audience who saw it, with some engaging entertainment, and that didn't look the same. It matched the different creators. Charlie Chaplin was not to be seen like some of the cowboy movies of the time. It's a different thing, and that went right through until through the golden age of Hollywood in the 30s and 40s and 50s, where it was a studio system where people just punched the clock and came to work. And I'm talking about all those major stars that you knew from those days, if you know them, Clark Gable, whoever. They just showed up at the studio 9 to 5, and you're on some movie set sometimes, and you're other times you're not. And I'm not saying that's the best way. I'm just saying that they weren't trying to make stuff to extract money from people
Right.
and only do that. They were trying to create movies that had feel for the audience. And that still happens occasionally now, and that's great, even under that system. But within those old systems was didn't have the ego. There wasn't the toxicity. There wasn't someone who was really, you know, the main thing. They were a group of people working together, and so, there were egos. Yeah, let's not deny that. That's true, but that wasn't that wasn't what it was all about. It wasn't about how much money the person made that's in the news, because you can find out right now what a star makes on a movie. That makes no sense, because you're creating something. It's not about these things. It's about whether or not that actor's right for the role, or best serves the story, or what happens. But that's how it used to be. And also, they went out on publicity tours to make those movies seen. They went to the people, and they shook hands, and they took pictures. And not in every town, they went to the bigger cities, but that's what happened. And so there's something powerful about that circus idea, and that way Hollywood used to do that embraced the the people who were going to see it as a real entity that was vital to the thing, not just for their money, but to see those who resonated with this story, because they understood that would make the movie big, because they're going to tell their friends, they're going to have a feeling, they're going to and share that feeling with other people. And yeah, that's just a seemingly powerful thing to me that's not part of it anymore.
Yeah. It's super powerful because of the presence, right? So even the idea for Sing Your Song, right, is that it's about connection, it's about presence, and it's about being able to let the story be the best that it can be, the highest quality that it can be, filled with love and intention and care, right? Just like a child. That's how kind of Carey and I kind of have been talking about it a little bit. It's kind of like a child that really needs to be cared for, and it does. And the other part of this is the business side, right? So we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute, because the idea, though, I want to stick with this traveling circus kind of idea, right? Because the idea is that they did that, and it was beautiful, and it was amazing, and the people loved it. And there's so many photos of the moments caught, where they're hanging out of the train and they're waving, and it's wonderful. And so many of those towns, so many of those places are not really living. How many of you know about or have a small theater in your town that's owned independently, that's usually in a like downtown kind of area, because it's an old theater and it's there and it doesn't get used, and or it's there and it just kind of doesn't get used very much, and you drive by it and you see it and you're like, oh, that's so sad, because you can feel the resonance coming out of it, right? It's welcoming you, inviting you in. And then imagine the director, the assistant director, the producer, the actors, the actresses, people from the film coming into that town physically in person, helping clean that theater if that's what needs to happen, helping set up a warehouse, right? It doesn't have to be a theater. It could be a warehouse. It could be an empty building, right? But coming in and doing that and bringing the community to life, right? Because there's usually always a little cafe in some little place like that. And next to that, there's stores, right? There's things to bring to life physically and emotionally and spiritually and mindfully. It's a pretty credible idea, right? And then imagine that you can be a part of that yourself, because this is about being a part of it before it's ever even completed, before the first frame is ever even shot, about you all being part of that. So, Carey, do you want to share a little bit more about just a little bit about connected pictures and how that works?
Yeah, so connected pictures is the 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 space for all of this to happen through in a way. It's the platform where people can come and can express themselves about movies. It houses a marketplace for whatever stuff is attached to the movie and can be sold. And tickets can be bought. All those kinds of things. Um, Connected Pictures is a space to implement this kind of idea of going place to place, and doing it in the modern age, right? Through technology. So it is the technological platform that allows a movie to live a really long life, and a lot of stuff can happen on there as well as in the physical world. So the
Mhm.
characters, they do and can live there. They can be themselves before, um, they're in the movie, and they can be there after because they change. They're living and breathing things, so they can make their own posts, and they can post. And when you see them in the movie, then you can see, and you can find out their growth. So you never know what happens to the characters when the movie's done.
Mhm.
But here's a way we can do that. And so connected pictures is the technology that fuses together the past, what's good from the past, into the future and the now, right? So that's what connected pictures is. It's simply a platform that works a lot like LinkedIn or any other platform, but
Mhm.
it's specifically about our
Movie.
movie, other movies that will come. Sing Your Song is where it'll run through, and it's just the space to tie with without it in the modern age. It's hard to redo what was good or to take what was good and make it happen. But connected pictures is the space to do all that technologically.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's amazing. Um, and we'll be talking a lot more about that platform and how to be involved in that platform. And so um, the the thing to know about that is that it does allow you to be radically involved. It allows you to be like the super fan, right? That's just gaga goo goo, right, for just what's happening. And it's not, and it's because of this. It's because it's coming from here, because you believe in the movie, because you believe in the story, because you get swept up by the story. Sing your song. So, Carey, I want you to tell just a little bit about Sing Your Song, and just a little bit about kind of what it's about, right? So that everyone can begin falling in love with it as much as we have.
Sure. uh, it's the story of a musician's journey who's checked out of the world and living in scarcity for a long, long time until they're prompted by a least likely source to prompt them into discovering who they really are and what their impact can be. And that is it. The rest is, it would, I mean, there's a cast of characters that unwittingly the lead character draws into a group, and like life, there becomes a support group around this person, but not for the reason to help them, but just because all of us, including those who are maybe lost on their way are connectors of people, wittingly or unwittingly. And so all of that helps them discover who they are and if their music might have impact.
And it's lovely, and it's full of flavor too, right? Like it's characters that you wouldn't expect, and there's this side of you that is just innately in that, and that is a little bit about your character. Just your expression is you're a punk guy, right? In the 70s, an original punk movement, surfboarder, kind of all of the quote unquote cliches, but at the same time, full of heart, right? And so there's a sassy character, and there's diversity, right, within the screenplay itself, and it's really something quite beautiful. And I will say this, it's not boring. It's not boring. It's a very fun story. And so this is just this little magical tale, and you get pulled into it so quickly, and I'm so excited to see as it unfolds how the characters unfold and really come to life, because you said something a couple of times, and I know all you in the audience that know I say it a lot too, and that right, and that's sentient, that this is a sentient entity that is being birthed and brought to life, right? And so that's through a million and one ways. And there's a million and one ways that you can enter into the story yourself. And that's something that's really beautiful. And then I'm also looking forward to very much being able to share how you all can do that in a much bigger way. And my goodness, we have about 20 minutes left. So just doing a quick little time check. I want to go to the comments and just see a little bit about what we've got. Nick said she's been to so many carnivals. I love that. Sharon says, yes, Carey, absolutely. New perspective of self and your role in the world around you. Leslie asked, is it about a specific mindset context?
Yeah, it is about a mindset context. It's about how you see yourself. If you decide that you're not everything that you were or you thought you were, how do you live? And what happens when someone asks you to question that?
Yeah, it's identity, right? That's loves to come in to play a lot, and I think it's a beautiful way to learn that we can change the story, and that we get to rewrite who we are, and who we are is seen by the world, and how we express ourselves, and we get to let go, and we get to grab onto something else, kind of like monkey bars, right? And when you can be a game, even when it's something that's beautiful, it's easy to let go and just grab onto that next thing, right? But it's a lot of it's things like this that the Sing Your Song has the power to make something be easier, right? Because you've already done it. As you're watching the movie, you yourself have already done it. And then so if you can claim that right in that moment, you can really walk out having been transformed, and with the steps, even the thoughts of how to keep walking that out, so that it's something that is more permanent versus just temporary, right? And so I love that. Lydia said that's where the heart comes in, and it was all along, and it very, very was. She said it's a very personal story and relatable at a root level, and it absolutely is. Leslie again said, she said, bouncing through different thought frequencies. Yes, yes. And Lydia said, authenticity is not someone else's flag, it's your own root being. Some of us don't even know who that is. And it is ultimately true, right? And ultimately, the ultimate goal is, I feel like Sandra Bullock in Miss Congeniality, right? We want world peace. We want world peace. We want people to be connected to themselves. This is about being connected to ourselves so we can evolve independently and collectively as humans, as sentient beings that understand that we can step into networks with one another and connection with one another and really be like the root systems of the trees or the mycelium, right? Where we take from one area and send to another because that's where it's needed, and it not be asked, no questions. It doesn't matter. It's just something that's needed, and so we give it freely and really have a world of reciprocity where you're just giving and receiving and giving and receiving, and it's not transactional, right? When we go to the movies now, it's all transactional. It's all about, how can we get you in? How can we get you to buy a blanket because it's too cold? How can we get you to, buy the popcorn and all of the things on the inside? And that's great. That's great. I love popcorn. It's part of the reason I love going to the movies, right? Who doesn't love movie popcorn? But do you see people walking out having been changed? Very, very rarely. And if you have, it's because you've done the work to be changed. And that's no different. What we're doing, that's no different. We can only receive at the level that we can receive, and we can only give at the level that we know ourselves, right? That doesn't change. But what changes is the community, and even being in the community and having those moments, having those nights as we're traveling across the country, sharing this beautiful work of art, and maybe even saying, right, your name, because you helped make this, because this is a communal project, right?
Yeah, and I want to say something. Sorry, Jen, if I cut you. I there's a scenario that I like to use for what we're doing that's pretty simple. And many people have had this experience. You go see a movie, it lights some ideas in you, some insights, and you go have coffee with your friends who you saw the movie with after, and you start a dialogue about that, what it did for you, what it might happen. Oh, what if they did this, or how I learned this? And then imagine that scale. That's what Connected Pictures is about. That's what we're doing with this living thing. Imagine that scale out to anybody who is moved in the movie but doesn't have someone to go talk about it with. You can literally come to a space where this is what we're doing. We are just want to connect with those who are moved by the movie and who resonate with something, so that we can be in discussion and move all of us forward. It's not like we're trying to move the audience forward, like that people need that or we're some saviors. It's just, this happens with a movie. Let's go talk about it. Let's talk about it. There's a space. Come on here, talk about it. Meet with us, the people who created it, the people who love it, and all of that, because that is the power of a story. Its resonance and the expression of its resonance from those who created the story, and also those who heard the story, because that's where humans move forward. And that's why we've been telling stories since the dawn of time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What is your favorite story? Do you have a favorite story?
Um, I don't have favorites of pretty much anything really, but I have a couple that are really that have moved me that I often think about. Um, hmm, uh, one is a book, and of course there's movies. There's a lot of movies. There's a lot of movies, but I don't have favorites. But one of a movie that um, really altered my life in a very positive way is My Life as a Dog. Um,
Mm.
and it's a Swedish movie. And the director's really famous, and I'm blanking on his name now. He went on to make What's Eating Gilbert Grape, a bunch of American movies, right? So I think that was maybe his next movie. Um, My Life as a Dog is a movie that tells the tale of a little boy, um, must be in the 50s, in Sweden, who's lost his mother, and he and his brother were separated. And he often thinks about what it must be like to be the dog the Russians sent into space, Laika, who's never coming home. And
Mm.
it's a tale that unfolds like that. Life is like that for this little boy, but he learns to find some joy at the end. And there's not huge movement, and there's a bunch of funny little interludes, and there's all about life, but there's so much power in that movie to just tell the story of existence. And so that's powerful. And I also love the book by, I love a lot of books by Salman Rushdie, but my favorite is Haroun and the Sea of Stories. And
Mm.
it's actually was written for not children, but young people. Um, that tells the power of storytelling, and it's in response to uh, Salman Rushdie having a fatwa put on his head because he wrote a book that was not liked. Yeah, that's right, Jennifer. Like of the space dog. Yeah.
Let's be.
Um, Anyway, yeah, so that's those are two of my I don't though two of my favorites, but I'm really not a favorites person.
Yeah, no, it's ultimately right. When I ask that question, I think when we get even asked that question, it's just what comes up in even in that moment is what's important, in the conversation. And I always do. I love to ask favorites because it just tells a lot about a person's heart. You can tell a lot about a person's heart and what it is that resonates and what really connects with somebody through the stories that they fall in love with or the stories that they have running in their own lives, right? And um, so it's one of my favorite questions to ask.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah. So the other there's about 10 minutes left. Is there anything that we haven't covered for today that you would like to speak about or speak to?
Um, yeah, there's something that we didn't quite cover that I think is really important, and actually
Mhm.
seeing Jennifer come up with her 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 comment
Yeah.
come up reminded me of something that's really important about what we're doing, which is I think interesting just in general for people. Making movies in Hollywood is a toxic business. It may be one of the most extreme toxic places to work, and people are treated poorly all the time, all the time, and exploited and everything else. And we know this from seeing the studio heads who are in jail and or all of the all this stuff. And but it's really those things aren't they're not the tip of the iceberg, but they're fairly it's fairly common. There's just not a lot of people are going to jail for it. But it's not uncommon to have so much strife and anger and yelling and things on a movie set. And and part of our process, which is really important, is to completely undo that. But I mean, for the rights, because it's just insane for any human to endure that. But also, I recognize you can't make quality anything if you're not co-creating. And so having so much anger and all the other emotions of that cause pain and suffering actually is a huge block to creativity. And I think that can be applied to everybody, including the audience, to understand that we have a lot of stuff in us. We're complex beings, and many of us have gone through a whole lot of trauma, right? And if you create from that space, you're blocking yourself off from all the energy and power of creating from love and from respect and and for treating people really well and all that. So I think that's just a thing that needs to be said, because it's not just the whole process of what we're doing is all about that. It's only about the potential for shared good through creating movies.
Yeah. It's becoming a system, right? A new system in a new way, which I know like everyone in the audience can relate to, because that's what everyone is doing in their perspective niches. And you all know I hate that word, but I'll use it. No. But in your perspective, experiences and expertise, right? That you've seen something in a system, you've experienced something, whether it was in corporate, whether it was in that you were a mother and you needed more flexibility, whether it's entrepreneurism, solopreneurism, whatever it may be. The largest part of all of that is knowing that what we have has gotten lost. It's been tainted. It's been covered with all of that humanity, right? All of that humanity. But we can do things differently, and we can evolve, and we can build, we can rebuild in a different way how to make movies, how to support everyone that's part of that. And also be something that is an experience that's living and reaches out across space and time for always, right? So the one thing about having it on the platform is that it's not just one conversation that you get to have either. It's something that's ongoing. You get to have conversations with the characters because they are living. They're living on a platform through avatars, right? And through storytelling and through story. And so there's no separation. We can come together as human beings and integrate story into transformation. We can integrate relationships into connection. We can integrate vertical systems into horizontal ones, into spiraling ones, into circular ones, into ones that support one another. The truth of the matter is, we built the systems that are in place. And we have the power to build new ones. We have power of choice to say, we're going to do something different. We're going to do something different. And we want to bring the world along for the ride. And not just in reels and short clips, behind the scenes, right? That's all beautiful and it will be part. But I want to break bread with people, right? I'm going to have real conversation, break bread, eat, dream, and co-create together.
That's beautiful. And I just will add, humans are, we are boundless in our imagination. And many people don't see that within themselves, even though they participate in it, they're doing imaginative things every day. So what a beautiful way that you just explained, breaking bread, because that's the conversation. The conversation isn't necessarily about a movie. A movie's a Kickstarter to what imagination can we share? What insights can we share? What human level stuff can we share? And it is such a powerful thing that I'm shocked that we don't do this much more.
Yeah. Well, I think that we're leaders of leaders, all of us in this moment in time, that are building, creating spaces, being the space, being present, um, being fully present and mindful. And like you said, doing the work to move ourselves into clarity. One of the most beautiful things that we can do is just come to a conclusion, come to a decision about something, about anything, right? And we get so indecisive about things, and or we want, and we feel this resonance in so many different directions, and that's actually a beautiful thing. It doesn't mean that it's a beautiful thing because heart knows heart, right? And so when we feel that resonance, that's a sign of that. And what it's really a sign of is that somebody has done a lot of work and they've spent a lot of time with themselves and they've fallen in love with themselves and they've fallen in love with the people and the humans around them, and they've fallen in love with humanity and the opportunity that we have in these human vessels and in this body to create change. And we can do that in every single way, in every single aspect. So I hope you all have fallen in love with this idea of creating movies in a new way and creating experiences and transformative interactions of connection and change, and that you'll want us to come to a city near you, right? A city where you can come and join us. And how wonderful and beautiful would that be? So, Carey, I'm going to let you say any last few words. Also, again, if you have anything to add, and then we'll let everyone go.
Nothing to add, just greatly appreciate everyone who's in the audience and watching, and you too, Jen.
Thank you so much, Carey. I appreciate you so much. And Lydia and Jennifer are part of this as well. So I'm going to give them that shout out because they deserve that. I'll be having them on to talk about their roles in everything. Thank you, Nor. Thank you, Lydia. Or I already said that, but this double thanks, and double thanks to you, Jennifer. And let me see, Nick and Leslie and Sharon and just everyone that's present, everyone that's on the replay. Feel free to leave questions, leave remarks. You can even invite me or knock on my door, and I'll do a live popcorn watch with you if you don't want to watch it by yourself. But please leave comments because I do come back and look and see. And let's be transformative and let's do what we can do to fulfill the call in our own selves and sing your song. Don't leave this existence without singing your song, because only you can sing it. Your swan song is asking that of you. So with that, I'll leave you all until next week. Have a wonderful weekend. And I love you all. Thank you. In stream, why are you not?
Her wisdom's a torch, I set on the goal. Destiny written deep in her soul. Fire and light, merging so tight. Powers combined to illuminate night.
Sinner's grace, lifting vision so high.